Mysteries abound around the world, from strange lights in the night sky to ghostly apparitions passing from one realm to the next. From the Great Pyramids of Egypt to what lies beneath the depths of Loch Ness. From Bigfoot to Atlantis, they are all mysteries waiting to be solved. Join Laurie Phillips, Lauren Smith, Graz, and Billy Simmons as they search for the truth on Nite Callers Radio.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Nite Callers Bigfoot Radio. It is February 11th, 2016. So we welcome all that have come tonight for another great show. And it's just me and the guys tonight. Miss Lauren is still on maternity leave. So we're all here and really ready to get to our guests. I don't think that any of us has any news, nothing new to share. So we're going to go ahead and bring our guest on. Graz, can you bring on that introduction?
Thank you. In continuing with the North American Sasquatch Research Series, Nite Callers Bigfoot Radio is honored to bring you Randy Cutrara from Michigan. Randy is the CEO of Mid West Bigfoot Researchers and Cutrara Customs, which does remodeling, murals, custom airbrushing. He went to Caledonia High School and Kent Tech Center and resides in Middleville, Michigan. Over the last few years, he formed Midwest Bigfoot Researchers of Michigan after the recall of a childhood memory of a Bigfoot encounter. This led him to search for answers, forming a team, and following what they believe to be the migration trail from the Midwest. Be sure to check out his slideshow as he shares some of his findings. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Graz, for that wonderful introduction. Hello, Randy. How are you doing tonight?
Hi, I'm doing good. How are you guys?
We're doing just fine. I hear you're supposed to be in Michigan, but tonight you're in Florida.
Yeah, I'm kind of getting away from everything in Florida. I ended up going to the conference. I'm over in St. Augustine in January, and been checking out a few places here and there around there, and then yet to make it to a few of them. The weather hasn't been all that great, so here I am. I'm not in Michigan, but I'll be back up there pretty soon, and I'll start looking again up there.
Well, I bet you aren't missing that snow and ice up in Michigan.
Yeah, it's cold up there.
Yeah, I bet you're burning up down in Florida.
It's 60 degrees. Yeah, it's warm.
Well, to start off with, listening to your bio, that you recalled a childhood memory, and that's how you got started again. Do you mind telling us about your childhood memory to start out with?
Oh, yeah, it's an odd one, and I've had people just kind of like walk away from me when I start telling them it because it just sounds so wild. But
it's unusual.
Since it was so traumatic, I had dehypnotized and forgot it. I was 10 years old. It happened quite a while ago, and this is in Michigan in the late 70s when there was a PBB poisoning, and the cows were getting killed off left and right. The farmers didn't know what to do with them. They didn't quite know what was killing them, so they're trying to get them away from the herd. Some of the other farmers were throwing them again into the field. Some of them were behind my house. Lived out in the country when I was a kid, and the nearest neighbor was about a mile away. I guess the cows that they were dumping back there was what they were eating, and what drew them in that close to the houses in the first place. We lived, a lot of farm country out there and a lot of state land, right, real close to the house back then, and, the houses were spread really far apart. My closest neighbor, there was a cornfield in between us. My friend's little brother kept on saying he was seen an orangutan that escaped from the zoo. You know, we're like, yeah, right. And, well, whatever. You know, he said this for a couple of days, and I finally went up and checked it out in the cornfield, and he whistled, and out comes this orangutan. Of course, you know, I was 10 years old. I never thought, wow, it's an orangutan, cool, you know. And it did a few things that Tim did and imitated him and kept on looking at me and came over to me and gave me a hug and checked me out, and about maybe pass out. It squished me so hard, and it ended up taking off for some reason. Went back to the cornfield, and we ended up walking up to my house and telling my dad about it. And he left for dinner, and I ate dinner, went back down to the barn. We had a bunch of old barns that weren't being used anymore, but to store hay in it, and a creek behind it where the cows are being dumped, and this thing followed me in the barn, and I spent a few hours with it playing around. I just thought it was an orangutan that escaped until something started making calling noises down at the creek that I couldn't quite see. And I'm in a second-story barn, a milking barn, and there's a hay barn next to it, and then the creek is behind there. The house was quite a ways away from the barns, and what I could see out of the second-story door that had, you know, been used for putting hay bales up there was something very large walking towards where I was at in the barn, and the other baby started calling to the mom, and it was deafeningly loud. And by then I knew it wasn't an orangutan, but, you know, it grabbed the baby and screamed at me, and by this time my parents had seen what was going on, and my dad was down there with a gun, and he didn't shoot at him or anything like that. He later told me, he just died, but just before he died, he told me, I finally asked him about this, and he told me everything about it. And this was just a couple of months ago, that he didn't fill the gun with, you know, he had a 16-gauge Browning semi-automatic or something. He said that he wouldn't have done anything to it. And he saw the male first. I never saw the male. The male was down by the creek, and he went around the other side of the barn and saw him. And she came back around the other side, and he was just freaked out. And I remember I passed out because it was loud. I had my hands on my ears. And, God, I woke up. The next thing I remembered was, you know, a paramedic was there. There was a cop there, and there was a conservation officer. There wasn't DNR back then. And my dad didn't want anything to do with it, you know, thinking it, you know, sound freaky about, you know, having a Bigfoot encounter, thinking, oh, you're on drugs, you're drinking or whatever it is what he told me. And you don't want to talk about that back then. My mom was completely opposite. She's talking to the conservation officer. I remember them coming there the next day and actually casting the stuff, wearing paper suits up to their neck, all the way down to the creek. And it really sucks because I didn't remember this until a couple of years ago, and a lot of the people that are involved in it are, you know, dead, and I can't find the conservation officer. My attorney happened to be the attorney representing the state. It was his first case for the PBB poisoning back in the 70s, and he turned me on to a lot of the archive evidence that I've dug up on the poisoning of the cows and whatnot, and plenty of other witnesses, but no solid evidence that I could find down in Lansing, the state capitol, on any file. I just found weird ones that they couldn't find that said devils on it, and that's as much as I could find. I found the fines for the farmers, you know, for dumping the cows back there. I found out that the 2,500 to about 5,000 cattle were buried up in Kalkaska in a mass grave. Is anybody there?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I'm still shocked about it coming up and hugging you. You kind of froze after you said that. I'm like, what? Really?
Well, I couldn't find any answers. I just decided, you know, I thought it'd be interesting to go look here and there where I thought Bigfoot might be, and I kind of was taking stabs out of, you know, big, you know, forest. Like we went up to the Huron National Forest and went up to Manistee. We checked out big forests like that. We found a little bit of evidence, a little bit of activities, and got better at what we were doing, and went to places like southern Illinois to the Garden of the Gods where we found tracks, and we're just taking stabs and going here and there to Kentucky to we end up going up to Wisconsin to Minnesota, pretty much all over the Midwest, looking everywhere we could, until this one guy that I was working with found that this thing called the North Country Trail runs from Lake Salt Fork, Ohio, up to Akron, and all the way up through the bottom of Michigan, right through the middle, all the way up to the UP. It's a trail. They put the trail in a few years ago, but what they did was they followed the only pattern that's never been developed, and it's always been wood ever since, it's always been state land and whatever. And that's actually how we figured out what their migration trail was. And I kind of, took the DFRO reports, and they matched up almost exactly to where that was, all the way through the 70s, all the way through the present to where I saw mine, and it's been a trip. But a lot of, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Continue.
Oh, a lot of the recordings I haven't been able to be transferred over. I was using a poor recorder that doesn't have any way to transfer the stuff over, but now I got the equipment to to take care of that. I've got a new thermal cam. I haven't used it much, and I got to get back to Michigan and put all this evidence and stuff on my site. I can't get to it on my laptop, so.
Okay, so how over the last few years you've created the Mid West Bigfoot Researchers, and how many are in this group, in your team?
There's a rotation of a couple of them that have only been on a few trips, and there's a couple more of them that regularly go, and there's just one that calls himself he calls himself Dango. His real name is Brandon Robinson, but he's the only guy that can track with me. He's the only guy that'll go out at night and use thermal cams. He's not afraid of bears, not afraid of alligators or snakes, and it's really hard to find in somebody else. A lot of the other guys won't go out at night.
Yeah. You don't have alligators and snakes in Michigan, though, do you?
No. We have snakes in Michigan, but we don't have alligators. No, we go down.
Okay.
We go. We haven't been on the other side of the Mississippi much, but we go everywhere from Florida all the way on up. So.
Oh, I see. Well, what is one of the hottest spots you've ever been in?
I say the most activity we end up going to all these different big, huge, forests. And about a year or so after doing that, I was going like, well, I'm going to check out the sliver of land, the state land where I saw them, near when I was a kid, because I can't, go on the exact same property that I saw them at. It got a little bit developed, and it's not my house anymore. But the state land was only a mile up the road, but it's not hunted anymore. There's a gun club near it now, and it's just small. Nobody hunts it. There's a lot of deer in there still. It's all overgrown. Hardly anybody goes there, and I didn't think I would find anything. Went there, heard gunshots during the day from the gun club, sat there and going like, I'm insane. There's no way this is going to amount to anything, and that was the busiest spot that I got with 100 feet from. I sat there and I faded the trees for like 3 months in the same tree and going there and just without any electronics, with nothing, just going there and sitting every night and waiting to see if they come close, and I'd hear them come closer and hear them whoop, and they wouldn't come more than 300-400 yards, so I didn't know really what it was other than the sounds. And they would never knock. They would just whoop a couple times. It sounded like a juvenile that was making a noise, because it sounded like I'd hear something heavy walking, and then I'd hear something whoop like on the other side when I started having to go towards the other one, and that's the game they always played. They finally showed themselves one time in September, and it was an accident. I went there late to check the tree. I didn't bring my thermal with me. I didn't have my big vision. I was just going to go there and set up a trail cam and finally put one out. And I went there at 1:30 in the morning, and I started walking up there, and I was texting somebody. I had a broom light on, and I started walking up to the tree, and I saw two, eyes that were real far apart, and they're close to the ground, and I was going, oh, dear, I wonder how close I get to it, because it was 2 feet off the ground. And I'm still texting, looking up, going like this deer's going to bolt any second, and I keep on getting closer, walking real slow, looking up from my phone, and then the eyes started going up higher, and I was kind of looking at it, and it got higher than a deer, then it got up to about 7 foot, and it stood there in front of me, and I just, that I knew what it was. I could see the silhouette of it. It was about 100 feet away from me, and I was just in shock, and I'm texting this other guy that I work with, another researcher, while this is happening, and I decided to see if I can get any closer. I took one step towards it, and the other one this was the first time that I had an encounter there, and they deflect, the other one started screaming. I looked over my shoulder to the other one that I didn't know was over by me, and I looked back, and the other one stopped, and that was close as I got over there. It's been fun, though. I took the other researcher over there one time, and he didn't even believe me. I mean, we got so close. They were running around us all night and whooping, and I had finally put trail cams out there one night, and I put a triangle around the tree that had been baiting for months, and I used good trail cams, hit them pretty well, I thought, but they could still see the trap, or the straps in the tree, And I didn't think that would give it away. I was about 300 or 400 yards away from where the trail cams, trees in front of me and behind me, and I heard them come up on those things, and they started screaming. They came up behind them and must have saw the straps or something like that, and they never came to that tree again. So I haven't had much luck with trail cams.
Well, and you know
Nobody
what? Yeah, and Grass, tell them why you think it is.
Well, some claim to.
Yeah.
Well,
they got to get it eventually. They can't. I mean, if you hide them good enough, they're not going to see it. It's like when I went out there, I had the straps visible. I didn't really think they could actually see. I heard they could, but I didn't believe it. And then that happened, and I'm like, okay, I learned something there. That's how it goes.
Well, one of the problems with a trail cam is that when something goes by it, a Bigfoot could be 100, 200 feet away or something like that. Something else goes by, and that infrared light comes on to take a picture. It's like if they can see any kind of infrared at all, that'll stand out like a red light about 100 yards away. And so they know the camera is physically there just by that kind of thing happening to it. And one of the theories that's out there is that there's a high-pitch ultrasonic squeal that when it starts to boot up every time, there's a delay, a 5-second delay on those things.
Yeah.
Some are different.
Yep.
When it starts to boot up, there's an ultrasonic squeal as it's warming to take the picture. Warming up to take the picture because it's in sleep mode all the time.
Yep.
That's why it can stay up there a month. So these are some of the theories about why Bigfoot can see, no matter how camouflage you put those things. They can tell that there's something physically there, and they'll sneak up behind it and start playing with it. Some people get or something. Or the camera it turns on, and you can see it. And some have video of the camera, the box being moved back and forth. They're just playing around with it, punching it, doing that kind of thing.
Or fingers or a stick. But then also you have this. If you set up game cameras in an active area, it will kill your activity. Deader than a doornail.
It sure did. It sure did.
And if you're trying to get rid of them, that's the way to go. Just put you up a bunch of game cameras around your house.
I had a conversation with somebody at work today about that. He came in. He's always hunting all the time, and he said a friend of his was having some kind of activity in his yard, and he's in his back 40. So he says, well, they're going to set up a game camera. I said, don't do that. You're going to lose everything. Well, I don't know about that. He didn't believe me. Walked away. He's a FedEx driver. Walked away, and I said, well, go ahead and put the camera up. Have fun. He just nodded and drove away. Some people don't believe me. They have to experiment themselves. You got to let them do that.
Yeah, and then sometimes you're waiting 5 years for the activity to return. They're very unforgiving in some areas. You know.
Yeah. The strangest thing was finding in this pinched-in bottleneck where they do still go, pretty close to houses. Some of the state land's more stretched out long and narrow from, so the top of Berry County up through Kent County, going through where this trail goes through, and it's not very wide, but it's still state land. It's hunting land. It's got the trail going through it. They still
does it follow creeks?
Excuse me.
Does that trail follow creeks? Yes,
it does. Well, there's one that I found that goes through Berry County where they actually go through this spring-fed creek and walk right in it and follow that creek almost through town, this little town, and they go, as far as what I can tell, I didn't see them, literally using it. But that's the only way they can go. We found different spots like that where they can cross underneath every single highway. There's a spot where they can go underneath the highway, where there's a river that goes underneath it.
Someone I know has that too, and I call those choke points. They have to pass through certain areas. I call those choke points. Yeah. Those are places to just sit at night and watch, is those choke points.
Yeah, they're so incredibly careful to not leave tracks. That's scary. Just something that's up there that can think like that, because I don't know, when I had that encounter when I was a kid, it seemed like, I was with an orangutan. It was really intelligent, as far as imitating us, and, it didn't never make hardly any noises until it heard its mom, but, a lot of their actions and what I saw, she was probably about, it was a long time ago, I was 10 years old, but I'm gauging from and a perspective of, how tall the top of the barn was. She was only about like 7 foot tall or so, but I didn't get to see the male. I really wish I would have, but there's more to that story. My other neighbors, the kid that saw the other orangutans, he's a ranger in Yellowstone Park, and he just decided to say that he doesn't remember it, and I talked to his parents, and they want me to drop it, but they said they remember it, and there was more to it that they really don't want me to talk about. And I just don't understand why they don't want to talk about it. But after, basically, what I can tell you is, after my encounter, the family to the other neighbors back down there. As a matter of fact, they got the call while I was there. There was gunshots down there and blah, blah, blah. For some reason, that baby, what happened at my house, directly after that baby wanted to get away from its parents. It wanted to hang out with, my friend and I, and escaped and went down to the neighbor's house and was like it was peeking in the windows. The neighbors were, I remember this the next day because I remember everything being in the front of their house, and their bathroom window was knocked in. These things were like peeking in the windows and screaming and yelling, and the cop was called down there. There were shots fired, and that's about all I know about that because, it's pretty fragmented a long time ago, and they will not talk about it. So I don't know what to do about that. What are you there? Oh.
Yes.
Yeah, I get that. I get that a lot. People just walk away from me usually about that point, going like, "Oh my God!" Well, the weird thing is about the whole story is, I remember the conservation officers, or with the DNR, or the rangers, or whatever they're called in your state. They came there and they cast those prints. I watched them. They roped the whole thing off all the way down the creek. I actually watched them pull hair off the barbed wire fence that ran from the barns down in the creek. I sat there and watched all that. I knew all this stuff that happened, and I can't find anything. I found a lot of neighbors. I actually found some neighbors that are still getting activity that are documented through the DNR. Now they had, not far from my old house, a hobby farm, an old farm that was like, the old farm that I lived on, just on the same road, up the road, and they'd still have a few cows. And they had one night where a cow and her calf were eaten overnight, and the DNR actually came over there and cast tracks and tried to tell them that it was coyotes. They have sightings. I have all this reported. Other neighbors all the way up and through here, all the way through the 70s. But I started so late, I lost a lot of the witnesses are gone. One died of diabetes. My mom's dead, and my dad's dead. They would have been great. I feel like I'm starting some race that like everybody's already started a long time ago.
Yes. Well, it's a fascinating.
That sounds like an X-Files thing.
Yeah,
oh my
almost.
God, yeah.
But it's not uncommon for park rangers to be involved in situations like that, and there is nothing public ever to be found about it. That goes into like an X-File or the Blue Book of Bigfoot. It disappears. It's they have plausible deniability. They do not. There is any such thing ever. I think that from what I understand and have heard, they're not allowed to, because it would create a panic, or it would create a witch hunt or Bigfoot hunt,
it would just news for you.
Open up a huge can of worms that they don't want opened up. They have enough trouble keeping meth heads and everything else out of the forest. And
the DNR in Michigan, I talked to them about it, and they're like, almost as a matter of fact, they know about the migration patterns, and they told me when the rut season is. They told me where to go look for answers to go find this evidence. Another thing, when I went to Wisconsin, I had my truck badge with my logo on it. It's a round circle, and it kind of looks like the DNR badge.
Right, it's in your logo. Yeah, it's on your logo.
I pulled into this campground, just wanted to go to a campground, really, just to check the area out. It's beautiful up in Interstate Park. I pulled in there, and, I go in there, and I already pre-registered, and I went in there to fill the paperwork. I'm like, oh, we're so glad you're here. And I'm like, they called you, right? He said, they're going like, what are you talking about? He's going like, we've had, all sorts of Bigfoot calls. People are leaving. They're getting mad. They're going up and shaking campers. And they were so happy I was there. I never heard nothing. I went up there with somebody, and they heard a whole bunch of calls while I was gone, but I didn't hear anything else. But I did check it out.
Wow. I had a question a while ago I was going to ask you. You were talking about them not leaving tracks or being careful not to leave tracks. I discovered that when I went to looking for tracks, that I would often find like a heel or toes right on the edge of a trail. Like they stepped over the trail or over the mud puddle and didn't quite get clear that mud puddle. But they seem to have the intelligence not to just plant their foot right in the middle of that gooey mud to leave a great track.
Yeah, they did that once for me in Garden of the Gods, but that was incredible.
Here, where I live in the Piney Woods of East Texas, so leaf litter is 5 or 6 inches thick. And it is very, very hard to find tracks unless you're just a professional tracker. But I have found tracks by doing this, by taking a rake and raking, and you can almost see the depressions, the steps. Right. But it's not clear. It's not clear evidence, but it looks like something walked through there that was heavy enough to make depressions that looked like a trackway, but there was really no clear print. And I have been looking. I found a track one time that was pristine, and I didn't have any tracking material with me, and I was going to go home, which was a mile away, and pick up the tracking material, but there was something there. Whatever it was that created that track, well, whoever he was still there. I could hear him. And I thought, if I come back, it's going to be obliterated. It's going to be damaged. It's going to be gone. I've had that happen before to me. I would go all the way home, get the casting material, come back, and somebody had run a stick through it.
Yeah, great.
And I knew there was no point in me making that trek back to the house, tote all that plaster back, because I knew that track would not be there when I got back. And that's been my experience. So, there's a level of intelligence there, because you don't have animals in the forest that obliterate their own tracks.
Yeah.
None do. So there is a much more intelligence involved to actually disguise their own tracks or to obliterate them. We're dealing with something with a much higher intelligence than your normal animal of the forest. So,
what do they call it? Self-consciousness or something? They did
exactly.
tests with primates about how much they relate with themselves out of the group, something along that line. They have a certain sense of self. So they're conscious of what they do and what they don't do, that kind of thing.
And I honestly believe they're trained from the time they're very young.
So they have to. When they're babies, they definitely don't know any better. When we were in Kentucky, we did get a little bit of activity down there in a couple spots, and we ended up stopping at this like a flea market store. They had a big suit out front, and what do you call those suits?
A ghillie suit?
Yeah, it was a ghillie suit, and that's what made us stop when we went in there. And she saw the truck and thought we were, from finding Bigfoot and whatnot. And she started telling us about her incidents and her sons, and she didn't know anything about mine. And her son had a similar experience and came back and told her that, Mom, there's an orangutan out in the woods, swinging from tree to tree out there. And I sat there and watched it for an hour. Thinking, the kid comes home thinking he's just watching an orangutan, and your mom's like, no, that's not an orangutan.
Oh, my gosh.
That was really cool, and she described me exactly what it looked like in the one she saw down in Florida, and I recorded it, and I got to get all that up yet.
So you go from state to state and check out different areas and everything. Have you noticed a difference in the behaviors? Like, do you find that some are bolder and some are more reclusive? Some are more vocal than other, in some places more than others, or do you understand the question?
I understand the question.
If you've noticed any differences.
There's differences in mostly like the ones that I told you about in Berry County. I've never got like maybe more than one knock at one time in the ones that I would imagine are the same, would have to be the same ones migrating further north in like the Manistee and Huron. We've gotten a lot of knocks up there. One we made pretty angry, and it was breaking trees at night, and we thought it was a bear until we saw how high the brakes were. That's why we didn't go anywhere. There was a lot of bear and moose up there, and walking around at night is probably not the wisest thing to do, I was told. So we want to check it. We checked it in the morning instead and found some fresh tree breaks, and it was another one of those times where tracking was impossible because there's fire hazard, dry conditions where nothing can leave a track, of course. A lot of weird stuff like that. Their knocking patterns seem to be almost exactly the same everywhere. With if you're calling out to see if you're not answering another knock that you hear, it's usually two knocks, and they'll answer with one. And you only, made so many mistakes. You only knock back once. If you knock back any more, they know something's wrong. You won't get any more knocks. If they're interested, you get another knock in about 15 minutes or so, and when they get closer, it'll get softer. But that usually leads to a whoop. Once they find out you're human, they usually make a noise or grunt or whoop, and they're gone. And there's nothing you can do about it. Night's over. But that's the fun part. That's it's usually about as close as you can get. Even if you got, I get the best thermal cam you can get. It's only you can't still see through, like, 100 yards away through trees yet, and there's a wall of trees there. You're not going to see them. Maybe flashes of heat, going through the trees, but most of the time you got to get them to come in real close. There's no technology that really works real good at taking pictures at night. I got to haul on, infrared cameras because, a thermal picture isn't all that great. So, if I want to get a good picture, I'm going to have to put up that red spotlight and try to get the camera to work because GoPros don't work at night. So it don't work very well during the day either. So.
Do you ever do calls?
What?
Do you ever do calls, like Bigfoot calls?
Oh, yeah, the calls. We do the calls. Usually the short whoops work the best. I find that if you do the long calls, it seems like it's more of a distress call, like they're saying, oh, there's a human over here, and you usually only hear it after they already distanced themselves from you. And there's a ways away, and they start screaming. They usually don't want to give away their, where they're at much, so they're not going to make much noise more than a whoop or a grunt or a knock or something like that, unless they're trying to warn some other ones around there that, hey, there's something wrong here, get the hell out of here. That's how I think the calls go, but everybody thinks different. So
what do you think the whoops are?
The whoops are, I don't think they can see in the dark, probably much better than we can, they're pretty much primates, they're more adapted, they're more intelligent as far as, being in the woods and getting around and whatnot, but they don't have like a vision of a cat or an owl or anything like that, so they're going to have to, communicate where they're at with, without giving themselves away too much. I mean, half the times when you hear them do a whoop or a knock, sometimes the knocks, they're usually sitting in one spot and for a little bit and they won't move, but I find when they're whoops, they're usually moving. By the time you hear one whoop, that they can, like, hills, like 1,500 foot, hills up in Manistee, like almost straight up in like seconds, and they seem like they're on the top. Tough animal to track, follow, do anything with. That's why nobody's ever got a good picture of one.
I don't want to disagree, but I do think they are nocturnal. I do think they have a nocturnal vision. I've had experiences where they have crept up on me in the pitch dark, and there's no way they could have moved through that forest without making some kind of noise if they couldn't see exactly where they were going.
Yeah.
And so I think they have to have some kind of nocturnal vision. And also, anything that develops eye shine, when a light is shined in their eyes and they have eye shine, generally they're nocturnal visioned. So
right,
if you've ever seen
I agree
eye
they have
shine,
nocturnal vision. I don't think they can see everything like say an owl can or something. They have extremely good night vision. That's just my theory because most of the eyes, the baby's eyes that I saw, and I got a really good look at them. They didn't look really like they're huge pupil. Like
a marsupial or something like that. No great big
marsupial.
Yeah,
it wasn't like that. It really looked quite orangutan looking, like only more the, of course the human features and had more of a human nose, but I mean, it had like very little hair, and it was, reddish brown, but the female was dark brown with a lot of gray on her face. You get a really good look at her face. She kind of, when she was reaching in to grab the baby, she didn't quite see me until she, the baby was getting up on her shoulder, and she kind of looked over at her shoulder and saw I was standing there and freaked out, and that's as much as I remember. So I get a good look at her face.
When you said that you baited, you say you put the bait up in trees. How do you go about doing that, and what do you use?
Well, I'm sure everybody's got different stuff. I try to put,
exactly.
I think they were like bananas, apples. I put some beads up there. They actually took the beads. I read it somewhere that they like beads, and they took all the beads I want and put up there. And I couldn't find them anywhere. If like a squirrel or something or a raccoon would have took them, I don't think they would have got very far. I did a real big perimeter check up and never found another bead that I put up there. And they usually peeled the bananas really nice and left them in all in a little pile. But I never seen any human interference when I was baiting those trees, but nobody goes in that lane anymore. It was all overgrown. I had to get back there to a lot of raspberry bushes and thorns. I had to cut a little path in there, and it was hard to get in back there. And once you got into the back, I found, the stereotypical evidence of like almost they're made out of these. I've got pictures of them up there, and then there was the uprooted trees that were stuck in the the middles of trees and busted up, and the tree weird things that they. But they're real goofy looking, but they're definitely could have been created by wind or any kind of snow, or definitely no human interference. I don't know why anybody would ever go out there and do that, but
so do you just put them in like a fork of a tree, or do you put them in a bag and hang them from the tree, and how high do you put it?
I use like the branches of the tree to stick the apples on if there's available branches, and I get up at least 7-8 feet because no deer can get it. The bear that I'm usually around, or because I won't go for a grizzly, I forget that. Black bear can't reach much over 7-8 feet unless they climb the tree. If I put them, they probably can get them. I mostly try to get it up way up off the ground and put a lot of stuff in the trees, and they like granola bars and things like apples. They didn't eat the banana on the first day. I went back and it was peeled and set in the corner. That was the only one they never seen it or something. But
I've always heard they did not like bananas or tomatoes. Tomatoes or bananas, they just don't care for them. Or orange.
Tomatoes.
Citrus, they didn't like citrus. But apples and pears, peaches. I've heard they love hot popcorn. Like you pop a bag of microwave popcorn and just leave the bag out there. The whole bag will disappear. I've done that and never could find the bag. Now, a raccoon could have hauled it off, but I never found the bag.
Now, I don't necessarily think that it has to do with anybody's personal taste. It's almost like me going to New York. There's some food in New York I don't like. So in certain families, it might be a genetic thing. They just don't like that kind of food. And then you go up 100, 200 miles away, and somebody, one of the Bigfoot might like that food. So I wouldn't exactly say that. You have to test it out. Put out stuff. If you want to do baiting, just put out stuff and see if they like what they don't like. That kind of thing.
Right.
If you do baiting.
That area, that was the only area that I did that kind of stuff because it was close enough for me to go back and forth and check on it. The other places we'll go during the day and check the areas out during the day, look for evidence, and go out at night. And you don't have time to bait trees and sit there and watch them. You just go out in the woods and try to be quiet and look for game trails during the day and try to follow those and look for a lot of creeks and be careful in the ferns and stuff like that. Some places you can sleep under them and cornfields. I just don't know how they sleep during the day in the field. It seems like it'd be really hot.
Yeah. I've always wondered about that too. But I wondered if they didn't just submerge themselves, like get up under a bush and just submerge themselves, rest up against the bank under a creek, and then they could stay.
Yeah, they know they got to hide, so they're going to be doing something definitely to camouflage.
Yeah, and there they wouldn't be bothered by mosquitoes or flies or anything else. It's nice and cool. It's in the shade. Maybe the next time you go down to the creek, you need to check up underneath the bushes on that bank.
Yeah, I check everywhere. The guy that I go out there with, he'll be jumping into caves and he's into reptiles and snakes too, and he'll He's literally not afraid of anything, which is a great guy to have around. But I usually encourage him
you stand about 50 feet away and let him do it first.
Yeah, but I usually encourage him to go get the proper equipment first, but he's usually really wanting to get in the caves right away and go looking around. And
yeah, you guys carry?
No, don't carry. I just carry bear mace and a titanium machete, and if I go in where there's going to be, which I probably won't ever do, where there's going to be brown bear or grizzly, I'd probably carry. I haven't never had a black bear encounter. All the other guys have, and lived to tell about it, so I'm not too worried about, unless it's like some, strange, big, black, angry bear.
Mm-hmm.
I have to use my mace, and I don't know. I think about it. Maybe I should get a gun, but no, I don't carry a gun. I just think that they could probably smell it. They'd probably know that you're armed. A lot of the times, like that one woods, I'll go out there without anything, just because I'm going to try to get close to them. And I made the mistake of using a lot of technology out there, and it pissed them off. So
yeah.
So back to square one.
I've heard that many times, Randy.
I'm sorry. I've
heard that many. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just saying, like when you go to these places where you don't have a whole lot of time that are far away, the technology helps. The thermal cameras, the trail cams you want to set up around your campsite and see if anything's looked at you at night. And, those work great for that kind of stuff, because but the more patient areas where you want to have contact with them and get close to them, you don't want that technology, and when you introduce it, it's intrusive to them and they're gone.
We had a guy on last week that suggested something that I never had thought about, but he would take equipment out into the field, but he never put it to his face. And he had good luck taking pictures and video and stuff like that as best as he could from his position, but that he never put it to his face. It's when you put it to your face that they don't like that. I think they know what a camera is. They know what binoculars are. They know what night vision binoculars are. I think they know that it's a way for you to see them, maybe. I don't know.
Anything that isn't natural, they don't like that. Baby Bigfoot hated my clothes. It would always be pulling at our clothes. It just hated them. It just hated anything we made. If you had something in your hand that was made, like I don't know, whatever we had, it wanted to do with it.
Do you ever do any recording?
Yeah, I've got, like I told you, I can't, what I was using said it was, transferable, and it wasn't transferable, and I got a lot of recordings on. I got to transfer over to the new digital recorder that I got now. I even got a video drone that I've been trying to fly and learn how to fly down here, and it's been too windy. I haven't got much time on it yet.
It takes a long time to learn how to operate one of those things, I've heard. You should be better off buying a really cheap one to begin with so you can learn how to fly it before you buy anything really expensive.
Yeah.
Because you end up crashing it more than, or fishing it out of the top of a tree and landing in your neighbor's yard.
Did you have to register that drone?
No, I didn't. Mine's pretty small. I haven't got a thermal cam on it or nothing big at all.
Right.
Well, a little tiny
one. I heard on the news that people are getting really tired of the drones, the airports and all kinds of fire people and all the first responders are getting tired of drones because every Tom, Dick, and Harry is getting drones. And every time there's an accident or something, people are showing up with the drones to get an air view of it or whatever. So the FAA is saying that they're going to put restrictions on all drones that you're going to have to register, something along that line.
Oh, wow.
Oh, I just wanted to see, my camping areas better with it. The lay of the land and the topography a little bit better,
Mhm. Yeah.
There's been a couple of times we're down in Florida, that I swear something, was jumping from treetop to treetop, but it could have been anything, but you couldn't see it because, the canopy of the palm trees and stuff are big up there. Anything could be sitting up there. It could have been a bird or whatever, but, would have been nice just to have that in my backpack and zip up the top of the tree and remove all doubt or whatever, I can do that now if it's not windy or dark or raining.
Have you ever seen them in motion?
Have I ever what?
Seen them in motion, like
seen
running,
them in motion.
or
yeah, I saw the female
on all
running
fours,
up towards. No, the female that I saw walking towards me when I was a kid was on her, hind legs walking.
Mm-hmm.
A typical slouched over back, fashion with, long arms and whatnot, but it was definitely not even, the baby would revert to, like, the fours to, like, kind of like an orangutan would, just to, like, to move around a little bit, but it was pretty much bipedal all the time. And the large female never went down to her fours ever that I could see. But I don't know how she might have used her back feet to get up to that second story. She had to climb on something to reach in that barn door to grab the baby with, I would think. I don't really think they're that tall. She couldn't have been more than 7 foot, so it's actually when you see that, like when I saw the one recently this last September, the eyes that went up in the silhouette. I mean, still the first thing that comes to your mind is like, how can something like that even exist? That's that big. It's just mind-blowing every time. I mean, when I hear them running through the woods, when I hear them, whooping, it's just incredible every time. It's like seeing it.
Yeah, I'll pull over for a cigarette out there on the logging roads, and I'll stand there and I'll think about that. These things are living out there, and 99% of the people in America don't know it. You got I'm looking around, all these hikers, Washington is just a hiker's mecca. We got thousands and thousands of hikers out there in the woods. Bigfoot's just sitting on the side of the hill, munching on popcorn, watching these humans go by or something like that. And they're just living out there. These huge beings are living out there.
Yeah, well, you figure the hiking trails are pretty much consisted of just, that trails, people just stay on the trails generally. When they go off the trails, it's more often when they see stuff. But still there's a lot of wilderness out there, and, probably when the push came from, when we started coming to this country and pushing everything to the woods, up to the mountains, over to the west, that's where they got driven to, and I don't know why they migrate so far anyway, but it's just something that they probably do, something like the caribou, migrate 800 miles. They're just used to doing it, and man doesn't seem to, pose any, probably there are obstacles that they seem to get around highways, they seem to get around housing developments that went up, and they find ways around it, and they're still there, and it's just. But on the other hand, I don't mean to keep on talking, but more, it seems like more people are just like indoors, more technology based, and hardly anybody goes outside anymore. That might help them to hide too, and I really don't think it's a good idea. A whole lot of people thinking that they do exist, because there'd be a whole lot of people out in the woods looking for them. Like it wasn't when I went to Salt Fork, I went down there. There was the whole campground was nothing but Bigfooters out there searching for it. And that's like only that park is only 17,000 some acres. It's not very big, and there was a lot of people on it. So I've never seen so many Bigfoots down there, but you have to really get onto private land up there where all the caves are and the bigger hills.
Bigfooters knocking at Bigfooters are half a mile away from each other.
Yeah, that would be real hard.
Salt Fork. Of course, Stacy says that he's got areas that he can actually track Bigfoot that are out, right on the edge of Salt Fork. But Central Salt Fork, that's pretty much at a loss.
When I was out there, that's where I came up with the idea of badging my truck and having T-shirts and whatnot, that they know what I'm doing in the woods when they see my truck. They came up there and told me that I can't camp in that woods overnight in the hunting land, the state hunting land there, which isn't true for any other state that I know of, but, they pretty much kicked me out of there. To hunt that land right, to get your equipment there, you need to, I guess, just drop it off and go to the woods. Have somebody take your truck and hike through the woods that way up there, or have access to private land, which would be a really good Bigfoot hunting area then. Anybody been there?
Mm-hmm.
No, I never have, but we've had quite a few researchers on the show that is some of their primary research area, salt forests. And they go back into the very back parts where, a lot of the researchers that go there for the conference and stuff like that, they don't go that far into it. But we have two that came on the show, and Michael Kane and, what's the other one's name? You will never forgive me for forgetting his name. But the two of them have had quite a lot of success in going in the very back parts of salt forest. And so, it's been a good place. So I think that's a good stopping point right now, and we're going to go ahead and go to a break. And, folks, we'll be back in a minute.
Back in about 7.5 minutes.
Wow, far out, man. Lordy, that's some trippy music you're playing there, man.
One-hit wonders from the 70s.
Oh, wow, man. That was really cool. I'm just, loving it. Right?
Uh-oh, moving into my beach mode. I don't want to go beach mode.
Dude. Welcome back to Nite Callers Bigfoot Radio, dude. Good job.
Oh,
dude, Randy, dude.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
Hey, good to be here.
About, let's say, where are you located at right now? You're in where, Gun Lake or someplace? You're in Middleville.
I live in Gun Lake, Michigan. It's in between Kalamazoo and Grand Rapids, on the opposite side of the state of Detroit.
Detroit. Oh, good. That's way on the opposite side. Get as far away from that shit as you can.
Oh yeah.
So, do you have your own local research area that you depend on, like within reach, 1 day's drive or something like that?
Basically, yeah. I haven't had any look over in Allegan County yet. They've got 58,000 square acres of hunting land out there. They're the biggest area in the lower part of Michigan, and I haven't found any evidence or heard anything out there yet. I've been going to mostly up near Manistee and Huron National Forest in that area.
Why do you think that local stuff doesn't have anything going on?
The local stuff does. Up through Berry County, I haven't been able to track anything very well south of there. A lot of the reports seem to split up around, go down through Jackson, and they go split up and go over the other side over by Kalamazoo through a little slice of state land down through there, and they seem to go down south, down through Illinois, and some go over to the other side of the state and go through Ohio. I don't know which is which and which one to follow yet. I've only, in a couple of years to figure this out. We're just getting a kind of, an idea right here on where they're going to be in the spring and summer. No idea where they go in the winter yet, so there's a lot of awareness to do yet.
Would you describe that as pretty much like a shotgun approach? You're not really absolutely sure where everybody is, so you just have to kind of like hit and miss it until you get to it?
So far, yeah, I haven't, got any definitive ideas of exactly in some spots where they even crossed anywhere near that trail. Because, I mean, they don't literally follow the trail just follows the woods, So it's, there's other farmers on, land and other land, but they could actually go through. That's all private, too. That's close to the trail in some areas that I haven't got permission to hunt on yet. There's a lot of places I got to check out. And obviously the Berry County's got 32,000 acres of hunting land, and I've been checking every inch of that out because I can go there more often. I live in it. Gun Lake's right in the center of it, and I go out for free and get activity in the spring. I get it in the summer, early fall, and nothing during the summer. So I figured during the summer they're going up there where it's cooler and going further up north, and those forests are huge up there. The Manistee and the Huron run together, go from one side of the state to the other. There's a lot of wildlife up there. It's really cool. It's a lot of ground to cover. A lot of that
when you're out there looking,
activity.
When you're out there looking, what kind of sign are you looking for?
We generally try to find areas that we think would be good hunting areas. Obviously, good game areas. We look for game trails, and then we look basically follow the game trails during the day. Look for, if we were lucky enough to find any prints, anything like that, which only happened one time. Then we know we're in the right spot. We usually don't figure out exactly what the right spot is until it gets dark. You find a good hunting spot, not during hunting season, of course, and go from there. And they're usually there trying to hunt the deer and get really pissed off when you're in a good spot and break stuff and make lots of noise and grunt.
Yeah. So you haven't necessarily found anything like teepee structures or directional pointers, like when they take trees and break them off,
a little bit of the
pointing
directional pointers. Nothing like the teepee things yet. I haven't seen any of that, but I've seen a lot of the weird tree breaks that are 8 feet tall. I get some pictures of them that are about at least 8 foot, and one broke. And we found this on this trail that nobody has been down in so long that we had to clear the trail to get down it in the truck and then walk. And we found these tree breaks, and a bunch of them shoved in this tree. I got pictures of it in the crotch of this tree. And one tree break was probably 8 foot, and it was fresh. And the other one behind it was about another foot taller, and it looked like it was a year ago. No other trees anywhere broke around there, and it was just out in the middle of nowhere in the Manistee National Forest. I found in Berry County, where the most activity, because we can pinpoint when they go through there, because I kind of basically got the idea of when I was a kid of where they're going to be and when. I found a pile of bones. I found a skull that looked like it was crushed with a rock. I found just a lot of. Have you ever been up in the?
Have you ever been up in the Upper Peninsula?
One of the guys I went out there to check a spot out last year, and we haven't went back up there yet. We were going to hook up through there and go down through Wisconsin and come back down. I haven't done that yet. I heard there's a lot of Bigfoot activity up there. They'd have to be landlocked up there, either coming up and down through Wisconsin and Minnesota up into Canada, and where else they're going to go when they get in that UP, that weird shape, unless they swim the straits or something, But
catch one of your ferries.
There's huge spots of forest up there in the UP that that you can 30 miles across where there's not even anything, just but hiking trails.
The other name, Michael Kane and Eric Tipton, are the two researchers that research in South Fork. And so I just wanted to, or Salt Fork. I wanted to mention them before I forgot. So if Eric was listening to the show, that he did not get left out. Go, Eric and Michael. My question is, do you do any kind of preliminary investigation of an area before you go in it? I mean, you like look at topo maps or look at Bigfoot reports or witnesses, or how do you?
Oh, we got a guy that's really into topography, and he seems to know. His name's Nick. He knows a lot of the levels of the. It seems that he knows all the levels of the lakes. He knows all the topography levels of all the sides of the hills and everything all over the Midwest. I mean, he's from Colorado, and he picks out our spots, topography with, Bigfoot accounts. It's got to have, or, reports that got to be in the area. And then we go there and check it out. And after we're there, we go there, a couple times for a couple of weeks, and we get used to the area. It helps a lot. You go back there over and over, and like we do in Manistee and Huron.
Okay. When you were talking about the migration, so do you think they steadily move north and south, back and forth, going back and forth to the same areas? They have because, some people think that they don't migrate, but then many people from the north think they do migrate because wildlife migrates. They'll migrate south, so their food sources are migrating, so it would be reasonable to assume that the Bigfoot also migrate because their food sources are migrating. But in the south, where it's a temperate climate, I don't know if they do migrate, yet there are periods of time where there's no Bigfoot activity at all. And it's as though they have gone somewhere. They have to go somewhere. Yes. And are they heading, but we have a lot of sightings in the heart of the summer. You would think that's when they would migrate up north where it was cooler. But then also that's when all the fruits are becoming ripe, and that's where you get a lot of your fruit and vegetable sources is during the summertime. So that's interesting.
A lot of theories I've been hearing about that are, nobody knows, for sure nobody's a real expert because you can't put a GPS on them to find out. But they think that the families migrate in small little pods, but the juveniles will probably be the ones that'll stay back and look for a mate, with other juvenile Sasquatches, because there has to be, some sort of breeding pools for these things. It has to be enough of them around, or they, have arms growing out in the middle of their back or something, and then breeding. So they have to migrate. They're a large animal. They go through a lot of food sources if they're staying in one spot for that long, and they definitely, that's a good way for them not to be spotted is, continually move.
And so do you think they migrate on a designated trail? Like
no, I don't think they're
in
trails on a designated trail. I think they're more like, I would guess like, like the birds would, they go back where they were born, wherever they're, their kin or whatever are used to go on, whatever trail they, have gone, that's what they probably do. They find the easiest way they can get around undetected, and they keep it up until something, changes probably. But that's my best guess. I don't know. I'm definitely not an expert. I'm always learning.
No, but it's interesting that you're studying that though, because
I have to. Nobody else is going to go out there and find these answers for me. I tried to, contact the BFRO. They're interested in, found the reports. They don't have, a whole staff going out and investigating reports like I do and go out looking for more evidence and, migration patterns. And, I see a lot of nature. I see a lot of, deer, bald eagle, snakes, frogs, all sorts of fauna and different kinds of plants and different kinds of topography. That's great too. So, a win-win situation.
I see.
Well, it's hard to pin down because you got so many acres you have to deal with, and they've got so much room to play in. And there's so
sometimes
many trails
they just don't have anything.
Right.
When you go into an area,
hundreds of thousands of acres up here in the Cascades, going all the way down into California with the Sierras.
I know
it's almost impossible to actually get a pattern out of the thing because it's total shotgun approach. You just have to go in and try. That's all you can do. You can't really get a pattern out of them other than elevation. When the snow comes, they go down in elevation. They're following the deer down. Now, whether or not they go from here to Oregon, down to Northern California or not, that's a theory, but I don't buy that totally. Be about the same in your case. There's just so many acres, it's hard to track them down.
What is your ultimate goal?
Breaking up.
Yes. Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. What is your ultimate goal?
My ultimate goal is, I mean, just a shot in the dark dream, and I'd really like to get them protected. At least in my state, I can't go across the country and try to hit every state, but I think as technology gets better, we need, to go quite a ways probably to be able to get a good picture of them at night. Even with what we got, it's still got to go farther, but it's gonna happen. The GoPros are gonna get better, the FLIRs are gonna get better. Somebody's gonna prove it. Whoever it's gonna be generally accepted one day. And a lot of people be in the woods looking for Bigfoot, and if you see any footage of the great apes and how they react, and running, a confrontation. Most of it's all show and stuff, but you see something that big running towards you, people are gonna, start wanting to shoot the things if they think they can go out in the woods and find them, and they have.
I think it's going to be a half and half situation, because I think that once they've been proven that they're out there, half of the population wouldn't dare go in the woods. Will never go in the woods again. Campgrounds will be vacant. But then you've got the other half that are trophy hunters or curiosity, people that are curious, that, I kind of believe, though, I just by people that I have encountered that have asked me about it, and I've told them my experience and stuff, and you can just tell by the reaction on their face, they will never step in the woods again knowing that something's out there like that. They're absolutely terrified that something that big is out in the woods. I mean, they really don't want anything else to do with it. Plus, you have your witnesses that, these are hunters that have hunted all their life. They haven't experienced. They don't go back in the woods for years.
Yeah,
they never
interviewed
pick up a
some
gun
people
again.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're terrified. Just terrified. Don't even go back.
Yeah. Go ahead, Graz. What were you saying?
Our last guest had that problem. I had that problem. It took me years after my sighting.
Mm-hmm.
I would just pull over the side of the road up there in the hills and just look around and say, what the hell is going on? Literally. I'm looking off into the valleys and huge mountains and everything, and I know they're out there, and I'm saying, what the hell is going on? And it took me years to be able to, and I still have some certain issues hidden away I don't know about it. But I still get the willies when I just get out of my Jeep, and I have to force myself to work my way in there. So sometimes it'll scare the holy crap out of you.
Yeah.
What is this thing doing there?
I think it takes a certain kind of individual that just the curiosity overcomes their fear. Of course, their fear is real. It is always there.
That fear is always there. They could,
it's always there.
Things
I don't
go
care
bad.
who
They're big,
tells you. I don't care who you're talking to. They'll say, well, I'm not scared of them. I'll go stand right in front of them, pet them on the chest. Yeah, I just don't believe
I'll take
that.
him out there and let him loose.
Go believe that.
Go find one.
I've interviewed plenty of hunters. Even my dad told me, miscellaneous guns that they've had, from rifles to shotguns, and none of them pulled off a shot, and all of them said, I don't even think I have enough bullets. So, I've never seen a big male. I can imagine it'd be really scary seeing one in the woods. So.
Exactly. Well, number one, if you shoot it, do you have a weapon big enough to take it down? And what will it do to you if you don't take it down? And then you have those witnesses that say it looked too human. I wouldn't want to shoot one. I
wouldn't even dream of it.
Me neither. Neither. And there are a lot of people that once they ever see one, they don't want to take it down. But there are people out there that do, and I don't understand that. I don't understand their mentality, but they want to take one down because they want $1 million or be famous or whatever their reasoning behind it. Do they not know that they are probably committing homicide?
Yeah,
because
really.
there are so many tests that are coming with human DNA, and they keep saying, well, it's contaminated. How many samples can be contaminated?
Exactly.
I mean, 100 samples have come back contaminated? Surely not all of them are contaminated. So I don't know. I just don't understand the mentality of killing Bigfoot. I don't. And I'm glad to hear that that's not I didn't think that you were that way anyway, but I'm glad to hear you say it. And have you ever had anything thrown at you? Or have you ever been growled at? No?
I've been grunted at one time, and thank God somebody was with me, and I looked at him, and I was going like, did you hear that? And he said, yeah, I heard that. And I said, are you going in there to find out what it is? Nope. It was real close, and it was up in Cutrara National Forest, and it was nothing but poison ivy and thorns, and it was not to go in, and I kind of regret it. If I had the right clothes on, I would have right in it now, but I didn't then when we first started out.
Was it at night or during the day?
This one was during the day, and we got up it was real early, and we just wanted to do perimeter search, and we're walking further and further in circle around, looking for tracks around, a campsite when it happened.
Uh-huh.
And
do you do much night research, or is most of your research during the day?
Both. I'll burn the candle on both ends. I'll hike 9 hours during the day, and then go out on the same trails that I hike during the day to check it out at night if I find a good spot.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I was getting excited over here.
It's a rush. It's a lot of fun.
What I was saying is a lot of times what we would do is we would set up camp, and then we would do like perimeter, or we would take several trails and go as far off in there, several hours, And I always believed that we brought them back with us. They would find us and follow us back, see what we're up to. Because we're doing suspicious things. We're checking out tree breaks. We're looking on the ground for tracks. I think they absolutely know what we're up to. So I think that there's a curiosity, and many times they'll follow you right back to camp. And
they do that and break trees and get mad if you're in their favorite hunting spot.
Oh yeah. Because the nighttime is theirs. That is when they do their hunting. And when you're out there at night, they don't appreciate it because you're getting into their victuals, their food, and they don't appreciate it. And they might tolerate you the first night, but you go out there the second night, you're going to get upset.
Yep.
And so, they're hungry by now, and you've done messed up all the wildlife, everything, because no matter how good you are out there, you're disrupting.
Yep.
But that's all part of it. because I do it for the experience, and it's kind of a selfish thing, but I do it for the experience because I do it for interaction. Even
exactly.
if
There's been plenty of times where I could have, maybe had a camera there or brought a trail cam and I didn't record it. A lot of times, if you try to take a picture of anything in the woods, even if like a chipmunk running by you, it's really hard to get that camera up, get that focus in, and get a real good picture of anything that's out there. But, I value the experience more than getting the, proof. It's cool getting close to them. It's cool being, in the areas that they're in, seeing all the nature and the topography and the lakes and birds. It's awesome. That all ends of it.
So basically, when you first go to an area, what are your first steps? You set up camp, then you go and do a perimeter search. Do you bait?
Yeah, generally we'll try to find the best spot we can away from the area, but not too far away from where we want to go hiking. Generally at least a half a mile or more camp, and then hike to that spot and check everything out during the day. And you, like I said, usually can't tell until at night if it's a really good spot or if it's they're just not there. And there's been spots where you think they'd be. Lake Allegan County in Michigan has got tons of bayous, swamps, rivers running through it, hills, tons of acres out there. I haven't heard one knock or one, and it looks like it'd be a great spot, but it's not. So, or at least I haven't found it to be yet.
That's absolutely part of it too, because you're going to have your good times and then your dead times where you absolutely got nothing. And I used to have 5 research areas, and they were all in one area. It was spread out over about 10 miles. And I would stay at one place till I got nothing. Then I would move on to the next place. And this was night research. I was just drive to the spot and stand outside my car, make calls to see if I got responses, see if they would show up, if I would get eye shine or growling or movement or something like that. And then when everything got just really quiet and nothing had gone on for an hour, then I would go on to the next spot. And that's the way I did it for a while there. And I learned a lot by how they moved up on a person, how they tended to do the same things, and there always seemed to be one that stayed behind. The others would leave, but one would just stay behind and watch it. You couldn't see them, but you knew they were there.
It's usually juvenile that usually distracts you.
Yeah.
I fall for it every time.
I know. But it's fascinating to hear how other people and what they do. And yet it's also fascinating to me to find out they do a lot of the same things I do. We all tend to have the same kind of regime, and I think that's great. So have you ever had anything happen to you while you were sleeping in your tent, like something walking up, messing with your tent?
Yep, I was going to bring that up. I thought I told you about in Berry County. The first night I actually decided to sleep out there in a small tent.
Were you by yourself, or did you have someone else there with you?
But no, it was teeth chatter that woke me up. It was right next to my tent. I don't know what else would make that loud of a chatter to wake me up. And I literally, it's not like I'm going to wake up and open the tent, see what it is. I just sat there and listened to it. And terrified that it was probably 10 feet away from me. Chattering its teeth, it was creepy. I don't know what else can make that noise. I've never heard a deer do that. Maybe bear do it, but there isn't any bear in that particular area.
Right.
I had a disturbing thought a little while ago.
What's that?
A lot of your research is in Michigan, and there's some other researchers doing some other things in that area, and that has to do with Dogman.
Oh, I've been hearing about that.
I had to bring it up.
A lot.
I'm sorry. It was a disturbing thought. I had to bring it up.
Oh, wow, they're so scary. You know, I could stand a Bigfoot any day, but a dogman?
Well, Dogman is pretty hot up there.
Yeah, I don't want to run into it. That's all I heard up by Houghton Lake in Huron National Forest. They have T-shirts. People quite frequently see the badge on the truck when I stop somewhere, and they'll come up and tell me Bigfoot stories. Up there, they tell me Dogman stories. Swear up and down it's got a snout, it's a werewolf-looking thing, and I find that really hard to swallow, but I would quit going to the woods if I saw something like that out there.
Amen.
Right.
Amen, brother. I'll be done. I'll be done.
I keep saying I'm staying on this side of the Rockies. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Well,
yeah, I've known one of my friends, his girlfriend and his mom, they've never told anybody but him and me, and they swear up and down exactly. Just they got a real good look at it, and I don't know how.
Could you tell us the story, or are you allowed to? Are you allowed to share that story with us?
It was basically just a sighting outside of their house where they lived in rural Barrett County, where that was in the state land surrounded it. It just came up by their bird feeder and that general vicinity, and they saw it, got a real good look at it about no more than 200 feet away in the daylight. And I asked them over and over again if it could have been a snout, could have been a bear. It wasn't a bear, it wasn't the right color, but I don't see how, if they were actually seeing a Bigfoot, where they see this snout thing, and I don't know. And it's in Michigan, and another thing that a lot of people haven't really thought a lot about is with all those cow poisonings that supposedly were being buried by farmers that had PBV poisoning, and the PBV poisoning was what was it? It was a fire retardant. Started with an F, located like that. That's how it got mixed up. They were feeding the cows fire retardant. PBV is a fire retardant. Oh. That's what the poison was. Maybe it did something to the Bigfoots around there and made them look like Dogman. I don't know, but
wow.
I hope not. But I've often thought to myself, what kind of effects did those cows have? Because I read the reports. I mean, the Bigfoot's eating them, and other animals for that matter too, the coyotes, and what kind of
did it create some sort of birth effect? Yeah.
They were talking in the reports that I read too that they were worried about they wanted to incinerate all these cows instead of putting it in a mass grave up in Kalkaska, that they were going to have contamination 20, 30 years down the road. That's what I read in their notes. That's on my Bigfoot site, on the MWPR site, somewhere along here.
Well, I know this is partially related, but how in the world did they get that flame retardant? How did the cows get it? Was it
my attorney told me that the feed and the feed and the fire retardant were warehoused right next to each other. The packages looked the same, and for years they were pulling the wrong skids off of there. And they're mixing it with feed, mixing a whole bunch of it with feed, pouring it and taking it to the farmers, and that's what they get. And you can read all about it on there. It was extensive, like 2,500 to 5,000 had cows gone.
Oh.
At first they didn't know what was going on. They thought it was a poison or a disease. So, the farmers are pulling them away from the herds and laying them all over, putting them in the back of fields to figure out what to do with them. It was weird. My dad told me about him walking down the creek with the dog that night, and I wish I could have seen this. Oh my! He said he saw him feasting on those cows down there, and I've seen the cows. And I was actually dumb enough back then to actually handle the skulls that were still down there, because kids, those are skulls, those are cool, So, but he got to see him feast on those. He said never go down there without a gun anymore.
Wow.
That would have been something cool to see, but.
So basically, your father didn't confess all this until right before he died.
he kept it to himself all these years and never said anything to me until I directly asked him about it. And I was happy to hear it because I thought I was imagining everything.
Right.
You know, well, this memory came back, and then I talked to the kid's mother, and I triggered her memory by saying, well, remember the orangutan I said we used to play with when I was a kid? And she goes, oh, my God, yeah, I remember that now. And then I went to go talk to my dad. He told me the rest of it. That was great, but it was relief.
Yeah. I imagine it was.
I'd like to, one of these days, I'd really like to know what happened to that evidence they took. Somebody told me to check the health department now, too. I'm going to check that back when I get to Michigan. And back to Michigan, I've just been checking through DNR and police records, and I haven't dug anything up yet. I'm going to check the health department when I get back.
Yeah. Huh.
What government agency took it? Nobody will tell me. This guy, Brent Williamston. Yep, Williamston, just like that. That was the name of the guy that took the prints. The DNR, the ranger, the guy that came there and answered it. And he's retired and somewhere in Canada now, and I can't find him. Figured. You're right, it does sound like X-Files. I didn't want to grow up trying to be like on X-Files and live that kind of life, but I was forced into it.
We'll have to call you Mulder.
Yeah, I just talked to my uncle last
theme song.
Yeah, too bad we don't have it on, cue, where we could just play that.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be awesome. Wow. So tell us about some of your other experiences. We're down to probably about 19 minutes. Can't really see it from here.
Yeah, it's 19.
Tell us about
there
some
was
of your
a cool
other
experience we had up in Manistee.
Okay.
And I was lucky enough to be with this other researcher. They call him Dango. We're walked all along the side of this river and went across a footbridge and came back, going back the same way on the other side of the river. So we knew there was nothing on that other side of the river, no people camping over there, no cars anywhere. We're alone out there, and we were walking, doing calls, and I had the recorder in my hand. I got the calls.
Was this at night or during the day?
This is at night. And
okay.
We were getting the answers across from the river, which is a comfortable distance for Dango. That was his first real, calls that he heard back. It called back 3 times. On the third one, there was one behind us called the same time as the other one did. And I didn't hear it, but he said he did it. And then all of a sudden, 2 seconds after that, it just started downpouring so bad I dropped the recorder down the cliff. I did get it the next day, but that put an abrupt end to it. But that would have been really interesting to find out what would have happened. But
wow, that's awesome.
There's been a lot of tree breaks and weird stuff like that, camping and grunts and things like that we can't explain other than when the tree breaks are 6-7 feet up and it's just like a plain break and you heard it during the night and you get up and see it and there's water coming out of the tree and you're like, okay, bears aren't that tall. What did that? Maybe it's antlers. I don't know.
Yeah.
I always wanted to, when Bigfoot does that, I mean, he's got a huge hand and he's got a huge amount of grip. And when he takes that tree and he twists it and snaps it over, there's got to be some damage from the hand when he's doing this. And I've always wondered.
It looks like where the bark, where it's gripped, you can actually see it on the picture on one of them. Yeah,
or the bark is twisted a little bit. There might be some hair hanging off of there from when they were twisting it. Things
right,
like that.
I looked for the hair. I didn't see any.
You just about have to take a ladder, wouldn't you? About have to take a ladder, though, on some of them.
Yeah,
get
some
up there and look
around. Up there. And, how often you carry a ladder in the woods, There was another time that, when we found those tracks in Garden of the Gods, Illinois. We thought we were at Garden of the Gods. We were at the furthest part of Garden of the Gods. It was called Garden of the Gods 3. We had to get to it by like a 2.5-hour hike through the woods. We got there in early April. I think it was April 6th. It was 45 degrees. You know, it wasn't even spring. Rained the night before, and we got there as soon as the sun was coming up and walked into the woods. We met a turkey hunter coming out on the trail, said hi to him, you know, and he headed back the way we were coming. We went down probably not more than maybe 200-300 yards, and that's when we saw the tracks. And my first thing was they came out of the woods and crossed the muddy path and went down the muddy path a little ways and went up this, basically the stone faces on the Garden of the Gods and the smaller parts, and it went up that. We couldn't track it after that because most of the ground is just, rock with vegetation on top of it. And what we could gather, the tracks went, like the hunter had scared it up and the tracks went the opposite way the hunter did. And it went, and they were pretty small. They weren't probably more than an inch bigger than a human foot. And first time I ever seen tracks, I didn't know what to look for. And I just, we followed them, we looked for more. We came back to the tracks, and we're like, I at least got to get pictures of these. I didn't have cast it. It was back in the truck, and I never did cast it. I never believed what to look for. I didn't know about the mid-torsal break. I didn't know the way to look at the toe spacing, how they go straight across, and heels on this thing were huge. It had all those signs, and I didn't know it. We left there early in the morning, and we hiked for 4 hours trying to find, the beginning and the end of this trail. We never did. And there was a little bar a few miles close to that just had something we could drink. We wanted to get some pops. I stopped in there, and there were some old guys in there, just got there. And the bartender, I asked him, I said, is there any reason why anybody would, be walking back in these woods barefoot at this time of year? When it's 45 degrees out there, you have a missing person. I didn't say anything like Bigfoot. And the guy goes, where exactly did you see those? Just like that to me. And the other guys looked right at me. And this other guy came walking and said, did you see that? He asked me, he says, I might have been behind the Garden of the Gods, exactly where I saw them. And that guy bolted out of there before I even got to the truck. He took off. And these other guys started closing up this bar and leaving, and they were going to go check it out. And that's as much as we thought about it then until we returned down there another month or so and tried to find more evidence, and ended up going back down to that bar and talking to those people. And then they told us the rest of the story. And we got a couple stories from a couple hunters that had the experiences down there. It was really cool to hear. And those people down there might be changing their bar to the Bigfoot Bar and Grill, the name of it. So that was a cool incident too. And we got on the Illinois Bigfoot Research Center page, and a lot of people, pointing out the things that we didn't know about the tracks, like what I just told you about, and I really kicked myself for not casting them because there was probably about 8 of them, I think, before it got off that trail that had made the mistake. I mean, it was just rain, got done raining, and it ran across that, and it supposedly was a juvenile, probably something that was about 6 foot tall or so. And well, I took the pictures and I got to see it. I was close. I didn't cast it and learn.
So what about down there in Florida? Have you done any researching while you've been down there?
Yes, I have. I've been to a lot of places. I've been to Mayaca River State Park. I've been to Little Manatee River State Park, Manatee Lake State Park, Kala Forest here next week, and I've got a couple knocks here and there and nothing afterwards. I haven't really had a lot of. Sorry, I know there's a lot of sightings down here, but I haven't had much luck. I haven't found the right spot yet, I guess. But I'm not giving up. I'm still looking. I love it down here. I mean, out in the woods, Florida's got a lot of woods in the interior. When you get away from the, the touristy stuff toward the, the coast, there's a lot of Florida to see. I haven't seen a lot of it yet.
Wow. Well, I hear Ocala's a great place. I've got a good friend that researches in Ocala, and also in the Green Swamp. So both of those areas are good places to check. And this is the best time of year to go too. During the summer, the insects are just unforgiving, and so this is the best time of year to go.
Yeah, I was trying out the new GoPro, the GoPro 4 session. I got one of those and tried that out with the GoPro 3 that I got. When we were down here, me and the other researcher were down here last month, and we had these bugs to the eye. They didn't seem like they're really.
Okay, you're breaking up a little bit, Randy.
Sorry.
Okay. Can you repeat that, please, so we can hear you?
I was just saying we got a lot of footage that, deer and on the GoPros. We had a hard time seeing it on the GoPros. The deer that seemed like they're really close look really far.
Uh-huh.
So I'm not too happy about the GoPros. Plus, you can't use them at night, so.
Yeah. Wow.
They need to make an infrared GoPro that'd work.
Yeah.
Well, you can do that yourself if you want. You can do that yourself if you want. You can do that yourself if you want. If you're willing to take the camera apart, all you got to do is take that filter.
I was thinking about doing that with a trail cam.
Well, trail cams are naturally full spectrum, or not full spectrum, but they go into the infrared. That's why they use an infrared lamp on them.
Yeah.
But with any camera that you can buy, behind the lens is a filter just to block out the infrared and some of the other frequencies and make it just natural frequencies that the eye sees, just visible light. But there's a little filter back in there. If you take that out and replace it with the same thickness and same size piece of glass, real clear glass, that thing will be a full spectrum camera, which will include infrared.
That's awesome. I didn't know that because I got a lot of cameras that can do that too.
Well, if you got any old cameras that you're going to basically throw away anyway, those are good for experimenting. That's what I did years ago, back around 98 or 99. I discovered infrared and how it worked in the cameras. I was curious because of ghost pictures. How do cameras see ghosts? So I was doing experiments with cameras and how to make them full spectrum. And
that's awesome.
That's how it works. You can do that with any camera that you want if you're willing to take it apart and take a chance on breaking it. But still take it apart and do that lens switch, and it'll be basically a full spectrum camera, which will unfortunately during daylight. During daylight it's going to be pinkish because it's seeing infrared. So that's going to be the only change. That's why they got the filter in there. That was my tech lesson for the night. Thank you very much.
That's cool. That's cool. I'll learn something new every time.
Somebody out there's going to hear that, and they're going to be dragging their cameras out. They got a box of old cameras and stuff, and they're going to be dragging them out.
There is a problem with that. In Sony, there was a camera called the Night Shot, and you just flick a switch, and it would get that filter out of the way and make it full spectrum so that they could use it at night or low light levels with a infrared light, and you could see in low light conditions. Unfortunately, this camera, if you used it during the day and put a visible light blocker on the outside of the lens, you could actually see through black bathing suits.
Oh, really?
Oh, no.
I wonder how you guys figure this stuff out.
Well, people laugh. Well, how do you know that? Because I actually proved it myself. It's on. You can find YouTube videos about this. But that camera, if you do it correctly, can actually be used for squatching. It's what I call the blob squatch eliminator. I've got that on my YouTube. And I may just have to put that back on my Facebook.
If you see a long-haired, hippie-looking guy at the beach with a camera looking at girls in bathing suits.
Yeah, and there's a black lens on the end of the camera, then you better call the cops. This is a YouTube moment, ladies and gentlemen. But anyway, I discovered that several years ago, and then I came up with using it for blob squatching, because if you can use it for ghost hunting, you can use it in dark areas during daylight because the sun supplies the infrared. You use it during the daylight, and it makes all the leaves turn white. And the hair on a Bigfoot soaks up infrared. So the leaves are reflecting infrared. The hair soaks up the infrared. The Bigfoot is black against the white leaves. It thinks it's hiding in the darkness. And this is on my YouTube. This is on my YouTube channel. It thinks it's hiding in the darkness. It's just sticking out like a sore thumb.
It's using the shadows as concealing itself. You know, it's natural concealment. And
but this camera sees right through the shadows. It'll blow the shadows completely out. I've been telling people about this for years and years and years, and I have yet to see anybody actually put that on their Bigfoot YouTube channel.
Well, that's good to know. I'm going to try it with some of my old GoPros, too. But those things, you would have to have a real close encounter to pick it up on a GoPro. They don't film things at distance very well with a wide spectrum lens like that.
You're right. Do GoPros have zooming on them capabilities? You can zoom in on something like a regular camera?
Nope.
It's just a static camera, isn't it?
Yep. I'm not too thrilled with them. I thought they'd get better pictures when I saw those deer, and they didn't. There was a couple of deer that I got coming down trails that I tried to get closer and closer to me, and they look like they're real close. I'm snapping pictures with my Canon, and boy, I looked at the footage on the GoPro, and it looked like it was way farther away.
Yeah.
Yeah, wide angle.
I have a camera like that has a zoom lens on it, and even zooming in, it still takes the picture. They look so far away, and I don't know, I'm just not real happy with it because I can only get so close to that deer before it takes off. So
yeah, it's hard to get the camera up, get it focused, get a shot before any wildlife is like that. And then you're talking about something that doesn't want to be seen that's, super intelligent and really fast. Good luck.
Really fast. Incredibly fast.
I tried chasing one once. We thought we were on a trail of one once up in Manistee, and I'm a pretty fast guy, and this other guy I'm with is young, and I don't know where it went. It just went up these hills like it was like nothing. So we're never going to try that again. I mean, it's not a good idea. I just want it wasn't an area I'd go to a lot, and chase them away. I just wanted to see if I could get closer. You can't. They'll always put distance on you. Lesson learned.
Exactly. Now, it was a clear open field. One night we had a call, a howl, and knew that it was a Sasquatch howl. There was no doubt about it. And by the sound of it, sounded like a male, alpha male. And it was at least a mile field between the wooded area that we were in on a creek and where we first heard it. And it didn't take 45 seconds for it to reach us.
Yeah,
It was that quick.
Yeah, both
I'm outside and I'm hearing all kinds of stuff moving around. It's creeping me out. Oh, my goodness.
No, it's
I am
about that
looking
time.
Is it that time? What time is it?
Well, we got 90 seconds left.
Ooh.
Okay. Well, Randy, you've been an excellent guest. I have just completely enjoyed your interview, and I hope you enjoyed it as well.
Yeah, it was fun. Thanks, guys.
We'd love to have you back sometime.
All right, hopefully I'll have some more evidence here pretty soon. More stories.
Well, try to get those recordings so that we can play them on the air. They would be awesome to hear.
Yeah,
Our
once I
listeners
get
love
back,
those
I'm gonna put them all in order.
Okay.
I've got a laptop I can't seem to get onto my site with because it doesn't recognize it, and it for some reason doesn't say I have the right birth date or something, so I can't get onto it right now. Oh.
Okay.
I gotta wait until I get back on my main computer, and then I can do it.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming on. And
thanks for having me.
Time. All right. I guess it's time to say goodnight, everybody, and we'll see you next Thursday. Good night,
Good night,
all.
everybody. There we go. There we go.